Welcome to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Coach Lorianne. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you too can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. And today we have our good friend, Vince Perrotta, the wonderful, the most amazing man. Welcome to the show, and thanks for co-hosting today.
Thanks very much. It's nice to be here again. Good to see you.
See you too. I love that we give everybody verbal caffeine and offer possibilities and talk about a lot of things. So what's on your mind today, Mr. Vince?
It's been a little bit of a tough day. I had an interesting conversation and had to give somebody feedback and they didn't take it really well.
Oh, tell me what happened.
So it's a situation where a new person in a role and they're trying to understand how to be successful, and they say they want to be successful. And so we've been working together a bit. And then as I've explained kind of, why are you not having success? What are some of the challenges you're having? Here's some things that you have to think about. When things were not happening, I had to help that individual as an accountability portion of my coaching,
Sure.
recognize what they're not doing. And so they didn't take the feedback really well and kind of got a little negative. So,
Okay. So they got negative. Why do you think? Do you think it was defensive?
I think there's a level of defensiveness. I also think, one of the hardest things, we all say we want feedback, we all want the truth, but it really is a hard thing.
It is, but if I could just take a moment and change the lens. So perhaps we need to change the lens on feedback. I think, and I believe very strongly, that feedback is one of the number one amazing cost-free tools that we have as a business. So if we listen to the feedback, we could agree or disagree, whatever the case may be, but we can't take it personal. This is feedback on the services we're providing. And if we take the ego out, change our lens and look at it from an observer, are they making justifiable excuses, or are they making good points that help you become better? So I know when I get feedback and someone's not happy with me, yeah, I get disappointed. I don't want to disappoint anybody. But it also takes a moment where, once again, taking 100% responsibility, I look inward. And we recently did an episode where we talked about 100% responsibility, but looking inward and looking at my company and saying, is this right? Is there something I can take away from that? And there's the advantage in the feedback. It helps us stay on track. Would that have helped your client in this situation or employee?
It did, in the sense that it helped them recognize what's the gap of performance and why is this not happening. But it was really hard for them to hear those kinds of things.
Yeah, well, isn't it difficult to hear negative things? But if we look at it, it goes back to, again, something we spoke about recently, which is fear. What does that mean? And now I have to take responsibility for this, and I might not agree with you. What happens when that happens, Vince?
Well, that's the thing, is then we need to talk about it, because that's a breakdown in the coaching process. Because it really, if you think about it, the feedback is to help you grow. If you disagree with the feedback, let's entertain that for a second. If you disagree with the feedback, the question is it because it's off base, or is it because it's hard to hear?
Yes.
If the feedback is relevant, correct, specific, and actionable, then you need to take a step back. And I got some good advice once, and I'm curious kind of how you suggest people receive feedback, not give it, but receive it. They said, just listen to it.
Yes.
Just acknowledge it. Yes. And then at the end, ask a question and say, can you tell me an example or show me an example of where that occurred so I can understand it?
Yes. And that's the important thing. Sometimes we receive feedback and we can't understand it. We can't process it, not because we're resistant to it, but because we don't realize. And it goes back to what? Awareness. Awareness is that beautiful thing. Awareness equals choice, which equals action. So if I'm aware I'm doing something, now I have a choice to either fix it, change it, do it, or not. Right. And that equals what my action's going to be. So if the person is not aware of what they're doing or understanding it, I agree with you. My reaction is, okay, how can we make this a 10? And I usually do it a rating system. It's like, if you rated the work that I did for you as a 7, and I'm a 7 for you, What would I have to do to make it a 10 for you? And that's when you get some really good yummy stuff. Now again, we don't have to accept everything and change everything and do everything. We just have to hear it, take it in, and see what works. That's where we come up with the choice. Do something with it or don't.
I think what you just said is key, is just take it in. And sometimes I think that if we, prior to providing feedback, kind of coached the reception of feedback, that might help. It may not help, but it might help in that saying to somebody, let me just get this all out, take a minute to digest it, and ask me questions about it, right? All I want you to do is try and understand it. And then we could talk about it from there.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's really hard. So what happened in that experience? They didn't take it well. It didn't go well. Did they continue the conversation or did they shut down?
So we did continue the conversation, but you could tell that it was, laborious. And
For you or for them or for both?
well, for both, I would say, because I could see that person was trying really hard, but they weren't giving me enough to act on. And part of coaching is not to over coach, right? So saying too much is sometimes as bad as saying nothing, because it kind of gets lost. You have to be succinct, you have to be clear, you have to be specific and actionable. And then you need to sit back, let that person now take it. Talk to me about that. And so I didn't feel that receptivity. I didn't find the intellectual curiosity that I would have hoped for.
Yeah.
So that made it hard for me too.
And it made it hard for you. How did that make you feel?
It made me feel like this was not productive, and that, essentially we should probably take a pause here, put a bookmark and say, you know what, let's come back to this another time. Because I think right now we're in a place where we're not moving in any direction, and that's not helping either.
Yeah, one of the keys, and I like that you said take a pause. One of the keys I find with me is when you're in a conversation that's not going really well, pushing that pause button is important, because sometimes it's not about necessarily resistance. It's about digestion and application. So now we did step one, make them aware. Now they have opportunity for choices, right? Because awareness equals choice equals action. But they may not be able to see those choices right now because they just was brought to their attention. Now they're aware that they can't wrangle with. They don't know how to settle with it. So taking that pause is really smart. And I really do encourage it. We need to do that more. We are a society of, when we're brought up in our society and in school, it's like, answer me now, answer me. Do you have an answer? You don't have an answer. You don't know what we're talking about. You just, no. Sometimes we have to take a pause. I reflect to a boss I had, and I loved Michael. I worked for this company, and Michael was my boss, and I would go in there and present something to him, and he would just sit there and stare at me in this like deafening silence. And I would be like, I didn't know what to do. So of course, being the Italian person who talks a lot, I just I threw up. I kept adding information and giving him more info, like, do you not have enough? Do I have to give you more? Are you waiting something for me? Instead of just embracing the silence. It's similar to that as to embracing the pause. And the funny part about that is one day I went in and I was like, stop doing that. Why are you doing that? And he looked at me and he goes, oh, well, I'm just giving it thoughtful consideration. And also he goes, I got two things out of it. I give it thoughtful consideration. I'm really, thinking about what you said and what are the options that we have, right? But he said, the second thing I get out of it is, what do you generally do? And I said, throw up on your desk. And he's like, yeah. He goes, a lot of times I get more information if I just wait. And so that pause and that wait is potentially more information. They get to process what you've told them, and maybe they have an aha moment, because our initial response is going to be what? Defensive, right? Like, oh, I can't believe he said that. I don't do that. I'm trying my best, but are you taking 100% responsibility? Are you listening? Are they hearing you? So what happened after you took the pause, or is it this new that we haven't even gotten over?
No, it's that new. So that's kind of where we are. And it makes me ask the question, essentially, is feedback really important? Because to have a response like that, I was asked to participate. It wasn't a choice. I did willingly, and we set ground rules at the very beginning of, okay, we're going to do this. This is how we're going to do it. Here's what you can expect of me, right? Here's what I expect of you. And you know, this is not within our, let's call it the framework of our agreement. But I also understand what I had to say was not in the realm of something like, hey, good morning, here, let me give you some feedback that you may not particularly care for, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I appreciate it. We're human.
Yeah, of course. And in the appreciation of that. But yeah, feedback is really something we can utilize to our advantage. Feedback is an opportunity to become better. Feedback is an opportunity to become better, because the only feedback that we focus on as something that we're like, is bad feedback. So good feedback, we want good feedback, right? So we don't have that visceral reaction. Good feedback, yay, I rock, right? But bad feedback is just an opportunity to get better, not only for that client, but for other clients. And we don't necessarily have to agree to it. Sometimes I've had clients that I had to fire because what their expectations were beyond the scope of what we were doing together and beyond anything I could possibly deliver. And it was actually over anticipated expectation. So there's also a responsibility to manage expectation, right? So when you get that feedback, whether it's positive or negative, you need to kind of just look at it, take it in, like you said, sit with it, and then see, where can I get better? So even if it's good feedback, you can even take that to the next level. Oh, I'm good at communicating. I'm going to continue communicating this way. And how can I improve that communication? How can I take that from a 9 to a 10? Or how can I take that from a 5 to a 10? What are the things that, if I were to make this better, even if it was a 10, how can I make it better? Is a really good way to respond to feedback, instead of like, I could yell at you, but then are you going to give me feedback ever again? Probably not. If I pout and stomp away, are you going to give me feedback again?
No, they're not.
No, of course not, because it wasn't a good experience. Here you're trying to help. All you're doing is trying to help by giving feedback, right?
And each success, right? I am trying to help, and each negative response is going to pull me a little further back until, if I'm asked for feedback, I'm essentially either not going to provide it, I'll temper it, or just say, listen, I don't think this relationship is working.
Yeah. So they're not going to listen. So why waste my time, right? Why waste my breath?
But right, and also, this is a positive situation. I am here for your development. I am here for your success.
Right.
That's my vested interest.
Period. Right. And that's it. And sentence, complete sentence. Yeah. So when we're looking at it from that perspective, even if they have a negative response, which does not produce the right continuation and doesn't produce the lens that you really need to have to receive feedback in order for you to improve yourself. If you look at feedback as an opportunity to improve, that is where the advantage is. It's like, okay, yeah, give me feedback. Because if you didn't tell me, hey, Lorianne, I received an email and it had errors in it, I wouldn't have known that I had to fix it. I wasn't aware. Now you brought it to my attention and awareness. Am I upset with myself and disappointed? Yeah. But do I have an opportunity to fix it and make it better? Absolutely. Why? Because I listened to your feedback.
And there's also reinforcement of behaviors. You made a point before, if I'm doing something well, wow, that's great. I want to look into doing that even better. So that's reinforcement of good behavior. There's also reinforcement of poor behavior when you don't get feedback and you're doing something you think is splendid and my goodness, this is outstanding. And I keep doing it and doing it and doing it. In the meantime, damaging my work or my reputation or the quality of what I'm providing clients. So that feedback is the only way I'm going to find that out.
Absolutely. And oh my gosh, have you ever been in that situation where you didn't know, you thought you were doing a rock job because nobody was saying anything, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, bam, hammer, you're doing a terrible job. What? Wait, what? Why didn't somebody tell me? Right. I'm sure that sentence has come out of everyone's mouth at one time or another. I wish you had told me. It goes to asking for assistance. I wish you had told me you needed somebody to help you move. I would have come and help you. But because we never asked, we never gave them the opportunity to do that, right? So the same thing with feedback is, if you don't give them feedback, how do you as a manager or as a coach expect them to remedy the situation? So how do you do that? Do you always give feedback, or are there times where it's like, it's not even worth my time?
No, I would tend to say I don't say that. What I do though is I look for patterns. I don't I don't typically think you coach a session. I think you coach a pattern, right?
Okay, yeah, agreed.
Yeah, over time. So what you want is multiple interactions with an individual where you can see things and hear things and see things and hear. And then you'll get the same. It's very funny. If you're patient enough, you will see the same behaviors and they'll stand out. And then you'll be able to aggregate and say, okay, I saw it on these occasions. You did this same thing, right? And this is why we're not reaching success.
Yeah. So when you give feedback to someone who takes it, what does that look like, Vince?
It's usually different. It's like, wow, I guess I didn't realize I was doing that, or gee, I'm surprised. Tell me about what did I do, right? And then you'll tell them like, oh my God, wow, I didn't realize that. Is there anything else? They're looking for additional information. They're looking for an example. You could feel the guard drop down because it's a scenario where it's like, gee, I didn't realize. I just, you could see the body language, like kind of the shoulders come down a bit, as opposed to a more lean in posture. Like, what do you mean? What did I do? Right. So you look for those key signals.
Yeah, yeah. And also it's a better relationship. You're building on the relationship because now there's another silent trust level being put there. It's like, I'm going to take my time to help you get better by sharing this information. And now you're open to it. So I just want you to open up to hear the feedback. Just absorb it. Don't respond to it. I know some of this may give you a visceral response. And I love, have you ever done this? Because I know I do this. Sometimes people get into a place where they freeze and they're still trying to process and they can't get beyond the process. So they don't have the fortitude to say, hey, give me an example. So generally what I would do is, would you like me to provide an example of what I'm talking about to provide a little more clarity? Does that help? Is that helpful for you?
That is helpful. The question I use a lot of times is, did that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. Because, you lay something out to somebody and the question, did that make sense? I want to make sure that I'm communicating that in a good way. I don't think I quite got, what, let me give you an example. That gives me the opportunity to offer the example to that person who's kind of, they're locked in their thinking right now and they're stuck on the fact that there's something I'm not doing really well.
Yeah, it's almost stunned. Okay, they weren't expecting that. So by saying, would you allow me to give you an example, or would you want me to give it, asking the question, it's almost like asking for permission. It's
Right.
like, okay, you asked me to give you an example. You can't get mad at me now. So would you like me to give you an example? Yes. Okay. You give the example and they're like, that's not possible. Like, what you said you wanted an example. I'm giving you an example. It takes the pressure off of the manager. So from a manager side, it takes the pressure off. And by offering that question, it takes the pressure off of the employee or the person that you're talking to, whether it's same level management, even upper management. It's like, I'm asking you for permission for me to, show you what I'm talking about. Because sometimes we just don't know. And it all starts with awareness. And I'm going to give that equation again. I'm loving equations these days, but awareness equals choice, which equals action, right? So if you're aware of something, now you have choices to do something or not do something. Two choices, like I always say. And then if you decide to do something, now you can take action. And sometimes the action is doing nothing. So if you don't agree, maybe the action is getting another job because this doesn't resonate with you and it's not a good fit. That's not a bad thing. The sooner we discover we have the ladder on the wrong wall, the faster we get to, put the ladder on the right wall, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's funny because I remember there was one assignment I had many years ago where you were videotaped. And they would play the videotapes back, and they would play the videotape back in front of everyone in the room.
Yikes.
Exactly. And it's a very humbling experience. You learn very quickly how to take feedback, and because you can't argue when you're standing up there doing the things that I don't really do that. You did it multiple times. Let me show you where. So you're a little more like, thanks, that makes good sense. I appreciate that. That's the kind of response you hope without the videotape that you would get when you're with somebody. That makes sense. I struggle with that. Can you tell me how I can do that, please?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's in languaging and understanding and being open. Again, being open to not criticism, but some opportunity for you to get better at what you do. Feedback is not criticism. It is what their perception is. You may not agree with their perception for whatever reason, but being open to it allows you to make the options of change. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne and Vince Perrotta, and we're going to take a short break and come right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne and Vince Perrotta. If you'd like to be a guest or lift up your business or product or non-for-profit, or if you have a question or comment, especially about Vince, please email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. I'll answer it, so it'll be fun. healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you and love the engagement and love your suggestions and recommendations. You all make this show great. So Vince, just a devastating day, right?
It made it a little tough day because there was a lot for me to process. When you're a coach, you're kind of disappointed when you're not successful. You always have someone's intention when you have to, good intentions at heart. When you have to deliver feedback, you do it with the best of thought and spirit, and you have some angst about it. Just like people have angst about receiving feedback, there's angst about giving it. Because
you don't know how it's going to be received. We all want to be loved, but we all need to be seen and heard.
Right.
And when you're giving feedback that's not happy news, of course you have angst about that. And I applaud you for understanding that. Keeps the sensitivity guard up, I believe.
Right.
When we have to do that, even when I have to separate with my clients, there's angst there, and I don't want to disappoint, but if I can't take them to the next level, I don't want to waste their time or waste my time, so, and as we always say, Vince, is as coaches, we make suggestions, you make decisions. So all we're here is in the best interest to get you to success and see you be successful. That is our yummy space, right?
Yes.
So it may not be a yummy space with this one, though. It sounds like it's not going in the bestest direction, as my kid would have said.
No, it's not, but actually it's going in the direction it's supposed to go in, because I also think that when you are resistant to hearing what you need to hear, you close yourself off to your own success.
I totally agree. And the advantage of feedback is give you the opportunity to adjust. Even in occasion, we have to adjust the chains on our bikes because they kind of get a little loose and we need to tighten those up. So the same thing with life. We need to adjust maybe the trajectory. And as we grow in our positions or grow in our expectations in our jobs, we need to learn to adjust. I like to look at it like this, Vince. We're all trying to navigate the waters. And if we're not going with the waves, it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be a tough ride. So I'm not saying roll over, but I am saying recognize that sometimes we have to just kind of move with it. We have to go with it. It's just easier, and you will see that it doesn't have to be difficult. And if you're not showing up for you, and I think some of the feedback comes to this, and maybe what you're dealing with too is coming back to this, is they're not only not navigating the waters, they're not hearing what you're saying, they're really stifling themselves from growth.
Sadly, yes, they are. Because you're going to continue to repeat the same behavior. We've all got blinders on at the end of it. We've all got blinders on, hence the reason why there's always that, perimeter of feedback that we all want, right? We want feedback from the people that report to us, report from feedback that are peers, and report from people to whom we report. You kind of get that 360 perspective. And, the themes come out, but you're going to get different themes because those people are looking at you in different ways.
Yeah, but there's the yumminess there is that, listen, if I wanted to get good feedback, I just talk to myself in the mirror. Not to say I don't, but just saying. But you can just talk to yourself. That's fine. And you will agree with yourself every time. I promise it's true. But if you really want good perception, if you really want to grow as a human, if you really want to grow in your job and be better at what you do, look at those people who accept feedback gracefully. It's just a graceful, it's just quiet. It's just, okay, let me hear it. All right, what do I have to do to make it better? What steps do I have to take to become better at what I'm doing? If someone didn't care about what you were doing, they wouldn't bother. They wouldn't waste their time to give you the feedback. They would just let you just, burn and what do they call it? When a plane does that?
Descend.
Yeah, they descend. And you won't grow. You're just gonna burn out, and you're not gonna last in that place. And 99% of the people never take that hard road. And once you do, and you make those hard choices and stay in the game, and it's really difficult. On the other side, it's so beautiful. But 99% of the people won't take that little bit of a ride. And it's short. It seems like it's going to be forever, but it's short. We recognize that we need to grow. Okay, let me make that change. We recognize some of the changes we would need to make. Let's do it. And that sometimes it's painful. It's like, because we're also not speaking nice to ourselves.
Yeah. We sometimes forget too, there are good examples that we can look at for coaching and feedback that we don't always take to heart, of incredible people and athletes that are out there. So, you take someone who is at the top of their game in golf, and their caddy is
Stop talking about me.
shameless plug. They're coaching the caddy is coaching that golfer the whole way. You watch those two together, and it's a really synchronous kind of relationship, where you'll literally see this tremendous golfer who can hit a ball right where they want it. They put that little backspin on it so it kind of sits, and the caddy will lean in, maybe suggest a different club, or say, hey, listen, make sure you're considering the wind, or whatever the case is, right? You talk about a coach, you got a kid on a basketball team, and the coach notices there's one funny thing about the release that kid has every time they put a shot up for a free throw. And the kids leaning into the coach like, all right, tell me. They want to know, because they want to hit that shot. I want to hit it every time. Why do we lose that when we get to adulthood and, we're in business?
But we don't, because the three things I look for all the time in clients for me is fire in your belly. That's the fire in your belly. It's like, give me more. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. With that little nuance of the change in the hand on the ball, to make that work every single time. Right. That's brilliant. And that, to me, is a brilliant individual to open themselves up. That also comes down to trusting the people you have around you. So you need to have a coach that you trust. So right. There's that disconnect. Where's the trust, right? Where you're not opening yourself up to allow this coach to take you to the next level. And if you're not, then don't waste your time with a coach.
And don't we all have a confidant that when you have a really bad problem, you go to that person and you go, I need your help. Can I ask you, I need your guidance on this. Listen to what I'm facing. And that person will talk to you, make suggestions, and inadvertently say to you, I got to tell you something. I don't know that you made the best choice along the way. We've got a couple of things in here that we probably want to look at changing.
Yes, without a doubt. And honestly, it was you. You also did that. For me, I went to you. I had something. You gave me some hard feedback. I mean, it was hard feedback. It was hard for you to tell me, and it was hard for me to hear, but you weren't wrong. And I was like, okay, not happy. But I wasn't not happy at you. I was not happy that I put myself in a position to have that kind of feedback. But because of it, I'm so much better. Because of it, I recognize that, and I have awareness now. There's that word again. I have awareness now. So feedback brings awareness. That allowed me to make some choices to adjust or not adjust, and then gave me the opportunity to take some action. And listen, that couldn't have been easy for you, but I trust you. You are a confidant. And I knew that you were going to be painfully sometimes, but kindly honest with me. And you were very kind about it. And you were, and I mean this not as an age differential, because I don't think we have a big age differential, but you were very fatherly about it. There was a kindness about it, a caringness about it. There was also, I'm going to kick your butt about it, that all put together in a nice little ball made it such a good coaching experience for me and made me better. But see, the difference in that is I was receptive to it. I wasn't loving the answer. I wanted to hear, no, you're great. Of course, we all want to hear that. But I knew that I was missing the mark, but I couldn't figure it out. I just couldn't figure out what it was. And you told me on many occasions, you're missing it. You're missing it. And I was just like, okay. And I didn't know what you meant. And finally I asked you, and that was a really eye-opening conversation. Those are important things. There's where a great example of where feedback is to your advantage. So really look at feedback from that perspective. Try to keep the emotion out of it. It's hard, but try to change your lens to observing it as if someone was telling someone else and you were listening in. It's not about you, because it's not personal. It's not personal. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just gives you an opportunity to grow and be even better.
Right. And that's the art of it. And the fact, I mean, the thing is that person, you have to word your coaching in a way that makes it warm enough to be received, that makes it clear and direct, but not painful and unkind, right? We talked a little bit about that before. You don't have to be brutally honest. You can be honest in a very nice way. But your receptivity is what makes that okay. It makes it okay, because if I need to come back to that, okay, this is better, but we still need to look at this, right? This looks good. We're getting down the path, but we're not there yet. And you could easily turn around and say, working on that. Yeah, we are working on this for a while, but that's okay. We're working on it with good intent. We're making progress, and we have a dialogue.
Yeah, there's no such thing as an overnight success. I don't care what anybody says, no such thing. It's a 20-year overnight success. Yeah,
That's it. A lot of years going to an overnight success.
Exactly. And because people have to practice and people have to do it over and over again. You don't come out of it. It's very rare that you come out of the box. Even, you were saying golf before, even the best golfer doesn't come out of the box hitting the perfect score, parring all the holes. That's not happening. It's just not happening. You have to practice. You have to continue to stay in it. You have to be kind to yourself. Let's talk about that for a second, because it seemed to be something that keeps coming up in my day. I don't know if with yours, but boy, self-talk, harsh. Where does that come from?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the word harsh is associated with it, because it's really not harsh. It maybe we haven't chosen the right words, or we're listening through a prism where we make it harsh, and it's not intended that way.
To ourselves. We're talking to ourselves that way.
Yeah.
Oofa. We have to be kind to ourselves.
But we don't. You like a lot of times, and it's especially true of high performers. High performers will come back and go, that was terrible. But I think the difference is, that was terrible. I can do this better.
Yes.
A different thing versus somebody who's just harsh, where they're like, that was terrible. I can't do this.
Yes.
I'm never going to get this. Right.
That's the harsh talk I'm talking about. That's the harsh talk is that bad talk to yourself. And then you start diminishing yourself as a result. No, we have to remind ourselves, well, is this the first time you threw that basketball? Is this the first time you hit that golf club? Is this the first time you've ever done this job? Do you have the experience behind you that you should be an expert? So it's managing expectations, your own expectations, don't you think?
Yeah, well, because how many times have we said, oh, no problem, I can do that piece of cake. Not a piece of cake, right? And it's kind of hard. And then you stumble. And then you're like, wow, I can't do this.
And I eat a piece of cake. I was like, all right.
There's always time for it.
Yeah, there's always time for cake. Stop it. But you're absolutely right. It's humbling. And then you just have to be kind to yourself and go, okay, I do spend a lot of time laughing at myself on a daily basis, because I'll take something on and go, whew, wow, that was bad. All right, let's, go back in there and let's make it better. Or, oh, I made these mistakes. Okay. That you did a Lorianne. Let's go back in there and fix it. And let's do it better the next time. And put in put in what I call stop gaps to
Right.
prevent it from happening again. To me, failure is when you keep repeating it over and over again. And then I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm tapping out because you're not learning. But success is coming from failure and learning something from it, even if it's a little bit at a time, to make it better.
So it's funny you say that because I was thinking to myself, I will actually reward, and I'm going to use this word intentionally, I will actually reward failure that has incremental progress.
Yes.
So I didn't get the success that I wanted, but I got further than I was, or I liked the way I did it. That was much better. But I still didn't, I still didn't win the bid. I didn't win the contract. I didn't win the client. That's okay. Do it again. You know what? That was much better. I liked it. It was, I felt like I was in control. I got to a good place. I didn't get this, but I think I know why. And then all of a sudden it's like, you're just trying to improve things incrementally, and that's when you get the best improvement, and you become self-correcting because you're giving yourself that kind of feedback and you're actually listening.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, ask for feedback. I know you go out to your clients and ask for feedback. You're servicing your clients, you ask them for feedback. Hey, is there anything I can do better? What, have I done anything that you weren't happy with? It's really good to do those little surveys. I would suggest if you do the surveys, and you can make surveys for free online and send them out to your clients. I do recommend that. But make it 5 to 7 questions. That's it. No more. You don't want to take a lot of their time, but you do want to see what they come back with and see, if you take all of the feedback and you look across it, where's your average? Where are you sitting? Are you getting similar feedback from everybody and it's not good? Maybe you need to look at that. If you're not getting that feedback from everybody and you're getting some really good things and some bad, what can you take out of that? That's a really good thing to do, is put yourself out there and show them how open you are. And just like rejection, when you're getting feedback and you continually ask for the feedback, first, you're going to be surprised at it. Second, you're going to be able to learn from it. And third, you're going to get used to getting feedback, whether it's good or bad.
And I think it's also good to ask the people you think you do a poor job with. Because if you ask the people that really like you and think you're doing a great job, well, you're hitting on every cylinder for them. But if you think about it, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to improve my gaps. I'm trying to fix my blind spots. Then I need to ask somebody who sees them.
Yeah. And who will be honest with me about it. Yeah. So one of the things I like to call it is on course and off course. When I'm off course, I'm getting negative feedback. So that will help me scoot me back on course. If I don't ask for feedback or get no feedback, I'm going to get really off course. And it sounds to me like that employee is really off course right now and has an opportunity, if they choose to, again, it's a choice. If they choose to, they could get back on course. They're going to have to do work, but they're going to have to get back on course, but they have to be open to getting back on course. So you see the differential between on course and off course?
I do because, again, but that requires engagement on the part of the person receiving the feedback.
Yes.
If you engage around the feedback, then you know what it is, you understand what the challenge is, you're hearing the feedback, and now you're trying to process and implement. That's the big thing. You get the process and implementation, you get the good listening. Now that the process is working, it's just going to be self-fulfilling. You're going to be successful. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm going to repeat something that you said. I think it's so, 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 so important. Both of you have to be engaged. The person who has to make those choices to do the changes has to be engaged. You can't, as a coach, do the work. You can't. Yeah. It's not your work to be done. Our day continues no matter what. It is really up to the individual to accept what it is, find a way to manage their way through that, and accept the feedback and apply it the way they think best. And sometimes it's not what we think. It's not necessarily how we apply it. It's how they apply it at a speed that is conducive to their digestion of it. Sometimes we have to digest it. I know I have some clients that they process slowly, and that slow process I need to be mindful of, right, so that they can catch up to me. I speak fast, I move fast. I'm already in Florida. You guys are still in New York. It's always been that way. And I have to learn to slow down, as you always tell me, slow down to allow them to catch up to the thought process. So have you run into that yourself?
I have, because people want to kind of get through it so quickly, and they will, sometimes the people who are the most receptive, they, okay, great. They just like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's take a step back. Let's break this down, right? Let's look at what is needed here. And
Yeah.
so we get there. We get there. We may not get there right away, but we will.
Yeah, it takes time. It definitely takes time. So last thoughts?
Last thought is invite feedback. Only pick people that you trust and you're comfortable with. And as a coach, be nice. It doesn't have to be brutally honest. It just has to be honest. And, work towards understanding.
Yeah, I love that. Kindness matters. Kindness matters on both sides.
Yes.
And if you're receiving feedback, remember, it's not always easy to give negative feedback to someone.
Right.
So be kind and be appreciative, be grateful for it. And you will see that when you are in that state of gratitude, you receive it differently. Being grateful for that feedback, it's received differently. You're just a delight. I always love having our coaching corners. I look forward to it every month. I look forward to spending this time with you. How did you become so smart?
Hanging around with you.
Oh, great answer. Thank you. My check cleared. Yay. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle. I am Lorianne Casdia and
Vince Perrotta.
And he is Vince Perrotta. That's true. I hope we earned the privilege of your time today. Look for us, as always, on Saturday at 3 p.m. on JVC Broadcasting or always on iHeartRadio. Until next time, I am Lorianne Casdia.
And I'm Vince Perrotta.
Play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up
big.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks, Vince. Bye.